The silence wasn't what she expected. After everything, after the hospital, the paperwork, the slow unraveling of a life that had once felt structured, silence was supposed to help. That's what people said. You need quiet. You need space. You need time. So Elena left. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just gradually. She stopped answering calls. Stopped going to places that still held his presence in ways she couldn't explain. The apartment became smaller every day, the walls holding too much memory, too much echo. So she found the village. It wasn't easy to find. That should have been the first sign. It didn't show up clearly on maps. The listing was vague, almost unfinished. A single property, cheap enough to feel like a mistake. Remote. Quiet. Available. That was enough. The drive took longer than she expected. Roads narrowed, then thinned, then turned into something less defined. The signal dropped somewhere halfway there, leaving her alone with the sound of the engine and the road beneath it. By the time she arrived, the sun was already low. The village didn't look abandoned. That was the first thing she noticed. It looked paused. Houses stood in place, intact, roofs holding, windows unbroken. Paths ran between them, worn enough to suggest use, but empty. No movement. No voices. No signs of life. Elena stepped out of the car slowly, the air cooler than she expected. It carried a faint scent of wood and something older she couldn't quite place. She stood there for a moment, just listening. Nothing. Not even the usual background noise you forget is there until it's gone. Okay, she murmured. It wasn't fear. Not yet. Just awareness. Her house sat near the edge of the village. Small, wooden, simple. The structure looked better than she expected, weathered, but not broken. It held. That mattered. She stepped onto the porch, testing the wood beneath her feet. It creaked, but didn't give. The door opened easier than she expected. Inside, dust, still air, filtered light, but not decay, not neglect in the way she had seen before. Just unused. Elena walked through slowly. The space was simple. A main room, a small kitchen, a narrow hallway leading to a back room. No furniture, no personal items, nothing to suggest who had lived there, or when they left. She paused near the center of the room. Something about it felt off, not dangerous, not immediately, just different. The kind of difference you notice before you understand. She turned toward the window. The village outside remained still. Too still. No one lives here, she said quietly. The question didn't expect an answer, but it lingered anyway. That night, she stayed. Not because she was sure, because she didn't have anywhere else to go. The air inside the house was cold, but stable. The walls held the temperature in a way that felt controlled, intentional. She laid out what she had. One bag, a blanket, a few essentials. Minimal. Enough. The silence pressed in again as the light faded. It wasn't empty. That was the problem. It felt full. Like something was there, just not visible. Elena sat still, listening. Nothing. No footsteps. No movement. Just quiet. She exhaled slowly. It's just unfamiliar, she told herself. That made sense. It should have been enough. But it wasn't. Sleep came in fragments. Light. Uneven. Every small sound pulling her back to awareness, even when there wasn't one. Morning came with a pale, washed-out light that made everything look flatter than it should. Elena stepped outside. The village looked the same. Unchanged. Still, she walked slowly along the path, moving past the nearest houses. Up close, they told a different story. Doors closed. Windows intact. Some with curtains still hanging inside. Not torn. Not damaged. Just left. She stopped at one. Knocked. The sound echoed slightly against the wood. No response. She tried the handle. Locked. She stepped back. Looked around. Every house felt the same. Not abandoned. Paused. As if people had left in the middle of something and never returned. A faint unease settled in her chest. She pushed it down. People move, she said quietly. That's normal. But even as she said it, it didn't feel normal. She kept walking. At the center of the village, there was a small structure that looked like it had once been shared space. A store, maybe, or a gathering point. The door stood slightly open. That was new. Everything else had been closed. Elena stepped toward it, pushed it further open. Inside, shelves. Empty, but clean. Not recently, but not abandoned long enough to decay. She ran her hand along one of the surfaces. Dust lifted lightly, evenly, undisturbed. She turned slowly. The space felt observed. She froze. Listened. Nothing. But the feeling didn't go away, like something just out of reach of her awareness. She stepped back outside. The air felt colder now. Sharper. The silence heavier. Elena looked around again. Every house. Every path. Every empty space. All of it. Too intact. Too still. Too quiet. That's not right, she said under her breath. Because abandoned places decay. They break down. They collapse. This hadn't. She turned back toward her house, walking faster now. Not running. But not slow. When she reached the door, she stopped. Something had changed. She knew it before she understood it. The door. It wasn't how she left it. It wasn't open. It wasn't broken. Just slightly different. The angle. The position. Subtle. But enough. Her hand hovered near the handle. Then she pushed it open. Inside, everything looked the same. Her bag. Her blanket. Her things. Untouched. But the air felt different. Colder. Heavier. Elena stepped inside slowly. Closed the door behind her. And for the first time since she arrived, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like something was listening back. Elena didn't move for a long moment after closing the door. The feeling didn't pass. It didn't fade into something she could explain away. It stayed. Quiet. Steady. Like the house itself was aware she had noticed. She stood in the center of the room, her eyes scanning everything again. Not quickly. Not panicked. Just carefully. Her bag was where she left it. The blanket hadn't shifted. Nothing obvious had changed. But the air felt wrong. Heavier than it should have been. As if something had settled inside while she was gone. It's just your head, she whispered. But even as she said it, she knew that wasn't true. Elena stepped toward the window and looked out. The village remained the same. Still. Silent. Unmoving. Then, she saw it. Not movement. Not exactly. A shift. At the far end of the path, near the edge of the trees, something had changed. She narrowed her eyes. There. A door. One of the houses. It was open. It hadn't been before. She was sure of that. Her breath slowed. Not from fear. From focus. Because now, there was proof. Something here wasn't static. Something here changed. Without her. Without sound. Without reason. Elena stepped back from the window, grabbed her jacket, and walked toward the door. She didn't rush. Didn't hesitate either. Because staying still wasn't going to answer anything. And leaving wasn't an option. Not yet. Outside, the air felt colder than before. The path beneath her feet seemed more defined now, as if something had been walking it recently. She followed it. Toward the house. The one with the open door. Every step felt deliberate. Measured. The silence pressed in around her. Not just quiet, but watchful. She reached the house. The door stood open just enough to reveal darkness inside. Elena paused at the threshold. Listened. Nothing. She stepped in. The interior matched the others. Clean. Still. Undisturbed. But different. The air here felt used. Not recently, but more recently than the others. She moved deeper inside. One step at a time. Then she saw it. On the table. A cup. Ceramic. Set near the edge. Dustless. Not clean. But not settled. Like it had been moved. Recently. Elena stared at it. Then slowly reached out. Touched it. Cold. But not the same kind of cold as everything else. This was different. Recent. Her chest tightened. Because now, there was no explanation left that made sense. She stepped back. Turned slowly. The room felt smaller now. Closer. Then, a sound. Soft. Behind her. Elena froze. It wasn't loud. It wasn't clear. But it was there. A shift. A breath. Not hers. She turned. Slow. Controlled. The doorway behind her was empty. But the air moved. Just slightly. Like something had passed through it. Her heart didn't race. It slowed. Because panic would break control. And control was the only thing she had. You're not alone here, she said quietly. The words didn't echo. They settled. Like the house absorbed them. She didn't wait for a response. She stepped out. Back into the open air. But it didn't feel open anymore. The village had changed. Not visually, but in presence. It felt occupied now. Not by people, but by something that understood space. Movement. Stillness. Elena walked back toward her house. Faster now. When she reached it, she didn't hesitate. She stepped inside, closed the door firmly, and stood still again. Thinking, not reacting. Because now, she understood something important. This place wasn't abandoned. It was maintained. Not physically, but intentionally, like something kept it in this state. Paused, preserved, watching, waiting. But for what? Elena's eyes moved slowly across the room. Then, she noticed something new. On the wall, near the corner, a mark. It hadn't been there before. Small, faint, almost unnoticeable. She stepped closer, ran her fingers lightly over it. A symbol, carved, old, but not weathered, fresh. Her breath slowed again, because that meant something had been inside, while she was gone, or while she was here. She stepped back, looked around. "You want me to see this?" she said quietly. No answer, but the air shifted again. Subtle, controlled, like a response that didn't need sound. Elena exhaled slowly, then nodded. All right, because now, this wasn't about leaving. It was about understanding. She stepped outside again, turned toward the center of the village. The place she hadn't fully explored yet. If something was here, it had a center. Everything did. The path led her back to the open structure, the one that felt like a store. But this time, it wasn't the same. Inside, something had changed. At the far wall, a door. It hadn't been there before. She was sure of it. Elena walked toward it. Slow, measured. The air felt colder with every step. She reached the door, placed her hand on it, and pushed. It opened. Inside, darkness, but not empty. A narrow space. Stone. Old. A stairway. Leading down. Elena paused. This was the center. She knew it, without needing to understand how. She stepped down. One step, then another. The air grew colder, thicker, the silence deeper. At the bottom, a room. Small, stone walls, and in the center, a structure. Not natural, not random, intentional. Symbols carved into it. The same as the one on her wall. Older, deeper, connected. Elena stepped closer. The air shifted around her. Not moving, responding. You kept this place, she said quietly. You didn't leave. The silence held. Then, a presence. Not visible, but undeniable. The air tightened, focused, like a tension narrowing. Elena didn't step back, didn't run, because now, she understood. This wasn't hostile. It wasn't trying to harm her. It was testing, waiting. You didn't want it abandoned, she said. The air shifted again, softer this time. Like recognition, Elena looked at the structure, then back at the space around her. You kept it still, she continued, so it wouldn't disappear. Another shift. Subtle, but real. And now I'm here. Silence. But not empty. Full. Present. She nodded slowly. I'm not leaving. The air stilled. Completely. Then, changed. The pressure eased. The cold softened. The space opened. Not physically, but in feeling. Like something had made a decision. Accepted something. Elena exhaled. A breath she didn't realize she was holding. Because now, the tension was gone. Not completely, but enough. She turned. Walked back up the stairs. Each step lighter than the last. When she stepped back into the village, it felt different. Still quiet. Still empty. But no longer watched. No longer held in place. It felt released. Elena stood there for a moment, then turned toward her house. When she stepped inside, the air was lighter, warmer. The mark on the wall remained, but it didn't feel like a warning anymore. It felt like a mark of presence, connection, understanding. She set her bag down again, looked around. The same space, but not the same place. Because now, it wasn't just somewhere she stayed. It was something she belonged to. Not owned, not controlled, but shared. And whatever had been here before, whatever had kept this place still, had chosen to let it move again. Because she stayed. Because she understood. And because, for the first time since she arrived, she wasn't alone. But she also wasn't afraid. And that changed everything.